All right, guys. Well, welcome back to Tomboy Official. Got another recording for you. So today, I'm just recording straight into the mic, straight into the app. The usual. No edits, no filtering, nothing. Just raw. Just coming right out of work and work from home, that is. Coming right out of work, being grateful for having a job, and just starting to record right away after running a couple errands. Haven't even really settled down yet, so this is kind of the best time for me to record. I apologize, I've been absent for a bit now. Reasons why. So, today I'm just gonna tell you what the topic is, but then I'll tell you why I've been kind of missing in action. So the topic today is going to be about ambivalence, kind of like ambivalence in relationships, ambivalence in kind of like where a lot of us find ourselves when we're in a stressful situation, and there's kind of this what's called like a stuck point where you're kind of like, you, me, we all have these things where it's like maybe you have a crush on somebody, or maybe you kind of want to talk to somebody about something, or maybe you want to quit your job, or whatever the situation is. There's always that thing that makes it so that you're not comfortable just straight up doing what you need to do to get the job done, right? So say if you wanted to quit your job, or maybe if you wanted to address something about the dress code at your work, or if you wanted a raise, or anything that kind of creates like an awkward situation. It doesn't have to be about work. It can be, oftentimes it's usually a social thing though. Usually it's something that involves a conversation with another person. So if you're interested in somebody, for example, and you have a crush on them and you're like, I don't know how to approach this, or if, say if you're in a relationship, a friendship even, with somebody, and they're being obnoxious about something, and you're like, I don't know how to approach this, or you feel like you need more money, or need an advance, or awkward financial conversations, you need a loan from somebody or something like that, and you're like, I don't know how to approach this. Usually, the straightforward answer would be, which is the worst advice ever almost, is just to ask, just to say it, just to let it all out and just say it, right? But a lot of us don't want to be like embarrassed or humiliated or feel like terrible, or we think the worst is going to happen. And so that's what ambivalence is. It's that kind of like wavering between like, do I do it? Do I not do it? I'm not really too sure. Like, I know what I want my end result to be. If you have a crush on someone, you want to be maybe closer to them, or in a relationship with them, or at least getting to know them better and hanging out and going on dates. If you want a raise, you just want that money, extra money that you see coming out into your paychecks. If you want to address maybe like a touchy subject with the bestie, you want to talk to your friend about some annoying habit that they have, you're like, I just want this relationship to improve. There's always some end result that you always might just want in these social settings, but there's something that makes it so that it's not easy to just be like, hey, this is what I want, this is what I need, and I'm gonna just directly ask you and say it. There's always this kind of like anxiety and stress that comes up around it. So I'm going to be talking about that. But, so I just want to talk a little bit about, though, first, like kind of how come I've been like MIA, and I won't spend too much time. Let me give myself 2.5 minutes. So skip to 6, I'm going to have more intro stuff. So skip to 2.5 minutes. But if you don't want to listen to this, skip to 2.5 minutes. But I just I've been stressed pretty much. I've been pretty stressed, pretty overwhelmed. My work kind of made me get the vaccine. I'm not here to get into some kind of political debate or conversation about that, but I have my own views on vaccinations, especially ones that are, not really clinically tested for too long. So, I had about a week off work, and I didn't even know the 15th was a holiday, so surprise, surprise to me. So I had previously scheduled my vaccine, did the vaccine, had a whole bunch of side effects. I got that vaccine last Monday. I had a whole bunch of side effects all the way till Saturday-ish, I'd say. And mostly, I'm not going to go through all the side effects, but just mostly a lot of pain and fatigue. And then, like, kind of difficulty with my temperature regulating, like going between like chills and cold sweats, night sweats, feeling hot, feeling cold. I don't know, do I need the window open? Do I want the fan on? Do I turn on the heater? So that, and then the week before that even happened, I was pretty overwhelmed. Like, I can tell when I'm stressed and overworked and just not able to focus, can't sleep good. It's just all these things just combined that add up for me. And it's normal. For my life, this is like normal. I get overwhelmed, eventually, because I have a high stress, fast paced job with a lot of responsibilities. I have clients, I have people that I have to like tend to their needs. A lot of times I end up putting that before my own, and it's like I'll put off my workouts, I'll put off my healthy diet, I'll put off my budgeting and stuff like that. Then it all kind of gets into this whirlwind, and then I'm like, fuck, I gotta like take care of that now. So I took about a week off to take care of myself and take care of some stuff I needed to, and now kind of back in the swing of things, getting there. So here we go, let's go back. So topic. So talking about this ambivalence, I think I did good on the 2.5 minutes, guys. I was looking at the clock, at the timer. So yeah, about this ambivalence, people, I mean, I know that, this is a normal thing. I struggle with it. Other people struggle with it. And I just kind of wanted to put it out there that, I can tell you my method of dealing with it is I like to get a lot of different pieces of advice from other people. Trusted people. I mean, I like to kind of delve into stuff where I'm just like, oh, I'm struggling with this thing. And then just kind of like lay it out there with trusted friends. So I've got quite a few. I'm so lucky, honestly. Like I'm not bragging. I just really do feel I've been blessed to have friends. I mean, I do have like massive trust issues with a lot of people too. So I'm just lucky to have friends that I do actually trust a lot, that I can like tell secrets to and confide in. And I don't feel like they're judging me, or they will like take time to kind of talk with me about like anything that to me is like a concern, or they'll come up and like they'll offer me a little push, and just be like, yeah, I can see you kind of hate this thing in your life, or I can see you're stressed about that. Because for myself, honestly, I tend to really just, honestly, I try to look at, I'm not like a glass half full kind of like, oh, look at the bright side, everything's positive thinking, ignore all your problems. I'm not really like that, but I don't know. I'm kind of like, I kind of laugh with my friends and say that I live like this hobo hippie lifestyle, it's like I could live in a tent, and I'd be chill with it if I felt like I could really do that safely. I think I could. Like I don't want to, but I'd say my standards for living environments aren't very high standards. I mean, I can definitely afford more than what I pay to live. I could definitely dish out more money to live more comfortably. I would say that like my life is quite, I have a very minimalist type lifestyle. I think I may have mentioned it on this podcast before, or maybe another one, where I was like, dude, I literally like had so much stress over working at home, because that meant I had to buy 2 extra pieces of furniture that I didn't previously have. I didn't previously have a desk or like an actual like proper like desk chair. I had like this beanbag chair, And because my bedding is it's like Japanese style bed, like on the floor. I don't have a tatami mat, but I have like a cushion underneath. And so I don't have like a bed frame. I don't have a box spring mattress. I mean, I know what they are and I could get one, but it's a thing where it's like the room is small. I like the aesthetic of it. To me, it's appealing to kind of have everything lower to the ground. I have a little table that's like maybe 6 inches off the ground. And for me, it's more kind of like calming to kind of have a space on the floor. I know for a lot of people it's weird. They're like, isn't it uncomfortable? Like, but yeah, it is a little bit uncomfortable. It's not as cushy and like, it's not like soft and fluffy like sitting on a couch or on like a full like thick mattress on a bed. It's not like that, but I like, being sitting up. I like the slight bit of discomfort with having to like lay down. Because I'll admit, like I get like lazy, depressed, whatever you want to call it, like super low energy. And I think it really does help me it gives me a bit of a push to be a little less like lounging around when I have to like, there's only so much you can lay on something that's that close to the floor. And it's kind of easier, like, if I, like, in other places, like, where I had guests and stuff, and, like, if I want to work out, I can just kind of roll things up, fold it up. I have more space that way. If I need to move, that's another big one, because I haven't lived anywhere where it's been, like, permanent for me. I'm always like, I'm just gonna rent month to month, and then when I gotta go, just peace out, when I get sick of it, I'll just pack up and go, and everything shoves into my little car, that mattress included. And so, like, if I had a box spring and a huge mattress, I need a whole truck, I need all this stuff to actually move, because I have a small little Eclipse. So it just, I like to, it helps me to be on the independent side, like, to the point where I don't have to rely on other people, and I don't actually feel stuck somewhere, because it's like, oh, I need to pay for a moving truck, or, oh, I need to rent the moving truck, or, oh, I need help, carrying my stuff out, or, oh, I need help with this, or, like, I don't really want to rely on other people. That's another thing, where it's like, I don't want someone else having to suddenly move me out. I don't want extra help with that. If I want to go, I want to just be like, I'm leaving tomorrow. Literally, I found a place. Let me just move, and I'll cram my stuff in my car and go move myself. I don't want to have to be like, oh, this other person needs to be involved, or I can't find anybody, or I need help or whatever. Like, and it's not like a macho thing. It's really not an ego thing. It's just, I mean, it's maybe sort of like a trust thing, but it's kind of like, I just prefer to be able to do that kind of stuff by myself. But the next place I get, I do intend for it to be more of a permanent, probably at least a year lease, permanent setting where I can, get furniture, and I will have to get either moving people to help me or people I know. But I do ask for help from people, and usually it's not on that level. It's usually like, more like emotionally, I need support from my friends, from my family. I'm not too open with most of my family, so it really helps that I do have friends that I can kind of confide in and stuff. And so, like, I just find it very helpful that I do have those dynamics with the friends that I know, especially a lot of the friends I've met, newer friends that I kind of, I've mentioned before that I grew up in this very religious environment where it's like very close-knit people, involved in your families, from the pastors to the deacons to the ushers to the, I don't know, praise team. Everybody knows your house, everybody knows your folks, everybody knows where you went to school, everybody knows the stuff you screwed up on. And people aren't really too forgiving or, non-judgmental about those things. And so I grew up in an environment like that, and it kind of led to a lot of, distrust of people, because I just kind of learned, like, dude, I can't really trust people that much. And this is in a setting that's supposed to be one of the most trustworthy settings, where people are supposed to be meek and humble and helpful, and, but we're all humans, right? We all mess up. We all make mistakes. We all accidentally gossip or accidentally lie or accidentally, like hurt somebody's feelings and things. I get that, but that environment wasn't like an accidental oops, that was like an occasional thing. It was more like it was the regular kind of thing. So being raised in a space like that from, I'll say, when we moved to LA when I was in kindergarten, so the same church family, what is called church family, it was like the same people from kindergarten all the way through like, I don't know, grad school. I mean, I was pretty connected with that church, and it was really hard for me to like not be involved until I found people in grad school where I was like, oh, like these people are nice to hang with. And I actually started prioritizing being around those people more and started being like, maybe Friday night, Sabbath, Vespers, I don't want to go hang out with the church. Maybe I do want to go to Korean barbecue instead. Or, oh, somebody invited me to their birthday party, but it's during church on a Saturday, and I don't really ever really miss church. Yeah, maybe I would rather go to their birthday celebration at this restaurant or something just to support them, because, I started prioritizing these people more than the people from the church, and more than seeing them, and more than being in that environment. It wasn't like a thing between like God necessarily, but it definitely did, do a lot of, it's just concerning for me in general. And so I would say all that to say, it really helps to kind of know where the root of the issues kind of, what's underlying when it comes to you reaching out to someone, or making those bold statements, or working with that ambivalence like in real time with those social situations that are stressful. If you're coming up and talking to another person, or whoever, whatever the situation may be, because there's I laid out a whole bunch of scenarios that are pretty vague, and I can give a personal example of my own, because I'm not too like ashamed to really do that, but I can give a personal example of my own that can help further on down the line in this recording. But I would really say that the first step really in dealing with ambivalence is trying to figure out, the background of where your discomforts are, right? Because everyone's uncomfortable for a certain reason, or multiple reasons, but everyone has that discomfort and that ambivalence. That ambivalence comes from a certain reason. And so, say for example, I'll just give an example of somebody who wants to ask their boss for a raise. That's a common awkward situation, because people have this, money in our culture in general, Western American culture. Money is a very kind of like taboo kind of topic. Like, it's not like, oh, we never talk about money. Like, your boss probably knows how much you get paid, but it's like, it's kind of awkward to be like, to come to them about your work ethic and the work you put in, versus them coming to you first. So if they want you to have a raise, or they want you to have a higher position, it's different than you speaking out about it first, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, but some people don't want to feel self-important, or some people want to like practice humility, or they feel a little like, oh, I'm gonna be really embarrassed if they're like, you don't deserve that raise, I'm not gonna feel good about myself, it might lower my self-esteem. Or they might be coming into the situation already with their self-esteem feeling pretty low, so they feel like, part of them feels like, I know I put in the work, I know I put in the effort. And then part of them feels like, oh, like, I feel like if I mention this, this person might make me feel bad, or like I feel bad about myself and things like that. But knowing the root of your ambivalence really helps. Knowing what it is that you're trying to avoid really helps. Knowing where it comes from that you're trying to avoid those things, it really, really helps. So once you kind of are able to figure out I think the first step would actually be figuring out like what what's the hesitation? What's the hesitation in asking the question? What's the hesitation in bringing up this conversation? What's the hesitation in addressing it directly? Because some things we can address directly, right? Like if I go to Jack in the Box and I order two, I don't know what the heck is even on the menu, they have tacos there. So if I order 2 tacos at Jack in the Box and then they give me 1, then I wouldn't feel bad just being like, oh, like, hey, I'm not sure if the receipt said that I ordered 2 or if I ordered 1 or if I had paid, like, I mean, I wouldn't be that, like, hesitant in, like, mentioning it, but, I mean, I also wouldn't be, like, a jerk and be like, give me my damn taco, but, I think it's, some things are easy to kind of ask for, so I think that would be something that would be easy enough to ask for. Give me my additional food that I paid for that shows on the receipt, and that you're in the right, and they're likely just going to give it to you. If they give you extra tacos, you're likely not going to complain, right? You're not going to be like, oh, sorry, you gave me an extra taco. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But usually when you pay for something, you want what you paid for at the very least. And if you get more, then you're going to be happier, probably. I mean, once they give it to you, they can't, like, take it back because of all those laws, rules and stuff where it's, like, somebody else touched the food. So it's, like, it's yours once they give it to you. They can't be like, oh, sorry, let me put that back on the grill. That would be kind of gross. So they don't do that. And I'm thankful that they don't. But, yeah, that would be something that would be, like, a very mild amount of ambivalence, though, right? Like, asking for something you already paid for at Jack in the Box where you're just going through a drive-through and it's just, like, a simple, easy peasy thing. That wouldn't cause, like, so much anxiety or stress. But the bigger the thing is that you want to ask for, the harder it can be. And I mean, not bigger as in financially, but the bigger, the more it addresses your own ego, the more the more your own ego gets involved with something, the harder it's going to be to actually ask for what you want. And the ego gets negatively involved with things when you have, like, a past kind of, I don't like calling things past traumas, because not everything's really considered a trauma, but a past distressing situation that you've learned it's something you don't want to repeat. A lot of that becomes unconscious. And so I think it would actually be the first step to figure out, okay, where does my ambivalence lie? What is the ambivalence? What am I telling myself is going to happen that's negative that I don't want to have happen? That's making it so that I don't actually do what it is that I want to do. So that, what's getting in my way of getting that raise, right? Versus the extra taco at Jack in the Box, there's not likely going to be much in the way. Now it's different if it's a sit-down restaurant. It can be harder to complain. It's different if it's like, there are some things that are a little different because you might consider the other person and be like, oh, like, I don't want them to get in trouble, or I don't want them to spit in my food, or I don't want, there's certain things you don't want to happen. But you want to figure out, what is it that I don't want to happen? What's on that short list? Usually it's a short list, and it feels like it's a big, big, huge list. Usually it's a few things that you're like, that you're worried, that you're like almost certain that these things are going to happen. So much so, you're almost certain so much so that you don't actually do what it is that is the step you need to do to get the result that you want. And I don't mean to just say you. I mean, it's me too. Like, I'm still going to give that example. But yeah, the first step would be when you're addressing the ambivalence and the difficulty, like, what is it that's hard? What am I experiencing? What are my thoughts that I'm telling myself? Emotionally, how do I feel? Does any of that translate into, like, a physical sensation? Is my heart rate going up? Am I sweaty? Are my thoughts racing? Is it hard for me to sleep? What do I notice happening over this whenever I try to address it? What is it that's making me just avoid and ignore it? Or just not do it altogether, even if you're thinking about it all day, every day. So the ambivalence is the first thing to address, and then you're going to figure out what it is kind of in your background. what it is in your, this comes from somewhere, it's coming from somewhere, it's stemming from somewhere. And I'm saying it stems from somewhere, especially if there's like patterns that you notice. Like I mentioned, like I have a lot of trust issues in social settings. So there are a lot of things that I don't do socially that may be odd to other people. Like I have roommates, and every time I have roommates, I feel like I don't want to get too emotionally involved, mostly because I already know most of the people I've lived with, I don't want to live with them for the rest of my life. So I already just don't want to attach. But then, it is hard for me to want to attach to people. And especially when I'm living with them, there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to deal with that's hard for me to deal with when it comes up, that is so much of a pain for me to deal with, that I just don't even want to form relationships with the people I live with. I'd rather just put in my headphones like I do and just walk around like having people ignore me, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm way more comfortable with that than having to interact and have small talk. And people, how roommates are. Sometimes they complain a lot. I see how these roommates treat each other, and I'm like, I don't want any part of this kind of social interaction. Like, they're very rude to each other sometimes, inconsiderate. Like, not to a point where it's like a toxic environment to live in, but they've had a couple arguments that are like shouting arguments like midday, where it's like I'm literally working from home, and like I'm sure that like, and I confirmed with the other staff that I work with, and I was like, this is embarrassing that like they literally witnessed that, and I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, like I'm in the middle of a meeting, and people are like arguing with each other. But it wasn't me arguing, it was them. But it's like, and it was a stupid argument too, and it went on and on and on. But basically somebody was on their phone, that they would talk loud and get really mad and agitated and upset and be like screaming. And it wasn't even in English, so none of the rest of us really knew what it was about. But they would be like screaming and mad and arguing and upset. And we would just be like, okay, like why doesn't this person just take their conversations into their car and have it like in a private place that we don't have to hear all this? Because it's a little unsettling to hear people screaming, and then like they would go in the bathroom all the time, and this bathroom is shared between four of us. This person would go in the bathroom and be in the bathroom like on the phone screaming and talking loudly, and like it would be obnoxious. And so yeah, so what we kind of, what I kind of do is I just basically just don't interact. And it's not because of those kind of arguments. Like, nobody's arguing with me. Like, they're all polite and nice and respectful to me, and everybody's really kind and gentle with me. I think I've had one person ask me like one thing ever. There was some request that they had that I was like mortified over, and so it's like, it was something like that where I'm just like, it's a little too intrusive for me. Like, people know when you wake, they know when you sleep, they know like if I talk on the phone in the house, which I don't do usually. I try not to. I even ignore or don't take some of my friends' calls at times, because I don't want to interact with people. So yeah, sometimes I'm just yeah, I mean, I just don't want them to overhear my conversations. I'm like, I like my privacy, like way more than the average person, I would say. There are a lot of people that are just really private people, but I really am. Like, I don't like them knowing when I wake up. I don't like them commenting about things that I wear or anything. I mean, I don't know. I live in a legal state where it's legal to smoke, marijuana, cannabis products, and I do so. And, they know about it. And to me, it's a little bit intrusive that, one of the roommates asked me, like, if, what my job would think or whatever, or like, what are the laws about it? Because they were just asking. And then another one, the one that I actually don't mind, because he gives me free stuff all the time, because he works for like a dispensary, and so he's always giving me free stuff because he doesn't use it and he can't really ship it legally, so it's like he just gives it to me. It's like convenient, I'm right there. He's giving me like hundreds of dollars worth of free stuff already, so I mean, that's pretty cool. But also, I really don't really know I don't really want to be too friendly, So, I try to listen. I try to, talk to people and be like, kind of um, like emotionally available somewhat. Like, I try to be kind and gentle, but sorry, I'm kind of like, I got a roommate. I parked in my car and I've got a roommate behind me, like cleaning off their front lights. And so I don't know if they can hear. And then there's people coming onto the hiking trail too, like usual. So just stuff like that. You guys can see how paranoid I get about things in life. But yeah, it's mostly, I do have like massive trust issues with stuff, and it's kind of hard for me. Some people just couldn't care less. Like, they don't care about, what it is that they, deal with people. They don't care about, these types of situations. To them, it's like nothing. They're just like, why would you even think that's a big deal? And then other friends of mine are like, move, like, just move. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to pay like twice as much as I'm paying. Where I live, my rent is always 700. My rent is already $765, and the area where I live, it's not uncommon to pay like between like $1,200 and $1,500 for a studio or one bedroom. That is the price of living. And so if you want to live alone, you're paying like double what I'm paying already, almost. And so and that's a lot of money. But I would say, so in addition to that, yeah, I'm really not comfortable recording this, even though I'm literally like in my car. I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Yeah, there's somebody she's like right behind my car. She parked like right behind my car. And so I'm gonna get into the example. I feel like I was rambling just because I'm like nervous. But let me see. So yeah, I talked about the ambivalence. I talked about, how to find out what you're ambivalent about, how to find out, what's going on kind of in your own background of your life that could have led to the ambivalence you have, especially if it's patterns you're noticing coming up over and over again. And I would say the next step would be kind of lay it out as a scenario for yourself, right? And then, like I was saying, I like to talk to trusted people that I know, but in combination with, people that I might not really physically have to see. So let me go through some of the types of questions that come up when, like, if you've ever talked to like an online provider, like a therapist or support person or something, where it's like peer supported or like either a peer or a professional that's paid or they're not paid. I'm trying to find it. I gotta scroll through all my screenshots. I screenshot so much stuff, you guys. I don't know why I even do. It's not like I ever really go back too much and read all this stuff. But I don't think I can even find it. Wow. Oh, there we go. Okay. So some of the questions are like, why is it that you want to talk to someone, or if it's your friend or whatever it may be. There's some options that are, you didn't have anyone else to talk to, or you don't have access to a therapist, or you wanted someone to talk to who doesn't know you, or I'm more comfortable texting than talking about private things, or I was too embarrassed to talk to someone in person or on the phone, or there might be some other kind of situation why. And then another one is in the conversation that you're having, with the person who's trying to help you. Like, did you mention any experience or feelings that you haven't shared with anybody else? So is this something you've never really talked about with anyone else? And then afterwards, like, do you feel like that person was genuinely concerned for your well-being? Like, were they helpful? Were they supportive? So those are some questions to kind of keep in mind as to like why, you might actually reach out to another person if you're experiencing difficulty kind of talking to another person. And then, so the next thing you can do is kind of make a scenario about two scenarios. I would say a generalization about things that you notice, like the patterns that you notice come up, and then also a specific situation that really, really fits right into that box. So for example, I would say that for my experience, I have difficulty with the situation that I wrote about. It was something I was writing about today during work. I literally had to do it during work because I couldn't focus otherwise. So, excuse me. So it says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically the general would be, that, how do I word this? So when I'm kind of in a like early phase of a relationship with somebody, I notice some things about myself where it's just kind of like, not easy. So there are two different things that I notice happen. There are often times where I have like a crush based on like a physical appearance, because I'm like, this person, I find them like really physically attractive, and they're kind of like hot, sexy person that I see, and I'm just like, dude, like, heck yeah, I'd like to be around that, look at that person, be around them, hopefully they're nice and I'd want to be friends and whatever, because physically I find them attractive. But then I'd say I'm probably less likely, because I'm pretty shy, so that would make it really hard for me to kind of either be open or to approach somebody. It's easier for me to approach people that I'm not like hardcore like crushing on for like physical reasons. And then there's another method that I would probably approach somebody where it's just like intellectually, and we kind of have this connection on a spiritual, intellectual level. That's kind of what I prefer, because looks, but I think most people I meet honestly look pretty good, and so usually looks aren't something that really concerns me, because I can't even think of people that I don't find, at least like on, rating on the scale of finding them at least somewhat attractive. Like, I'm not saying they're hot or like, I that I'm like crushing on them like that, like fangirling over them or whatever. But I would say that sometimes, those are things that come up where I'm just like, okay, like, and sometimes you get all in one person, but usually for me, it's like, it's hard for me to approach people either way, honestly. If it's like I'm intellectually kind of like finding someone interesting, or like I like their approach, like emotionally, how we are together, how they talk to me, how I connect with them, how we connect together. Thank God the roommate's finally done cleaning her thing. So she was like cleaning her freaking headlights. But yeah, anyways, me and my paranoid self. But basically, I'd say those, crushes are hard for me because it's like, it's weird. I'm like, I feel weird about this. I always feel like odd about it. It's like an awkward thing it's like, okay, like, and sometimes they just sneak up. Like, sometimes it'll be somebody that I'm like, oh, we're friendly and we just like play basketball together, or like we meet up and like do hobbies and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I think I'm kind of into them. It's like, dang it. Like, I didn't want things to go that way, like, it's like, like, why do I have to like have an interest in this person like that? Like, I get annoyed by it. Honestly, I get like a little, annoyed when I have crushes, because I'm just like, I don't want to have them on anybody. And I know that's a weird thing, but that's just how I am. But yeah, so if you have like a way of generally like kind of teasing out like where there's like a general way of describing the patterns that you see coming up, where it's like, for me, like crushes, that would be like a general thing. And like I mentioned, like kind of general would be like, if I'm like physically attracted versus not physically attractive, I'm going to interact with the people differently. There are things I notice that I totally do, like, and it's my own fault, but I mean, like totally, if I'm like crushing on somebody and I get like even the slightest hint, and if it's like a physical thing, if I'm like, I think this person's hot, and then they start talking to me, it doesn't have to be even texting, but say they're texting me or like talking to me or interacting with me, and then they decide, that, they want to go on a date or something, and I'm like cool with it. Man, like, it's really hard for me to be like approaching them or trying to like pursue them. I'm pretty sure it's a self-esteem thing and a lot of other things too, but I mean, it's hard for me to like pursue another person where I'm just like, oh, like I'm really like, I find this person like physically attractive. To me, it's just so distracting. I like can't get myself together to like function in a way that makes sense, and I get like so nervous and anxious to the point where it's just like, oh my gosh, like I like I'm getting nowhere with this, because just because like I'm not putting myself out there. Now, if I'm not like blinded by the person's looks or anything, and they're not like, that part of, the interaction isn't like making me uncomfortable or anything, then I find it a whole lot easier to kind of be like, okay, if it's like an intellectual attraction or something like that, it's easier for me to kind of meet up with them, ask them on a date, like try to get to know them. And, a lot of people, because it's COVID and, just because, I'm still at the end of that millennial category, I don't mind using dating apps. I mean, I prefer to meet in the real life, but I mean, I don't mind using dating apps just to find people that seem like they're a little bit interesting. You kind of see a little bit of, teaser, what you're getting into, kind of how they look, a little bit about their interests and dislikes and stuff, and start talking to them like a little bit. And then sometimes you're like, like this sounds like someone I might want to meet. And then going to try to meet them. And then meeting and interacting, I don't find that to be too hard to do. But, man, I've struggled when it was like someone that I was like, oh, I think this person's like really hot. Or even someone I previously crushed on that was like totally like, I liked them on the app kind of accidentally, but I did. And then like they never really asked me out. Or no, they did ask me out, and then like I never pursued it a second time around. I started sending, you guys will laugh at this, I started sending group texts with the person in it. It was like a 3, like me, that person, and a third person that we knew, asking them if they wanted to go snowboarding. Like I had, and when I met them, I was so nervous that I was like a little bit insensitive. I was kind of joking a little bit, maybe too much, and kind of like trying to be a little sarcastic, and I wasn't being my genuine, authentic self. I'm actually a lot more sensitive than that, but I was kind of just like writing them off, kind of almost like my life is going good, like, I had a good summer, even though they're like pouring out their heart about how they had a shitty summer, and like, they had this really bad breakup and all this other stuff, and I'm like, yeah, like I've been snowboarding. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, like I look back at it and I'm just like, I don't even know where my head was. It was definitely far up my colon, but I think that was not the best approach. So they never really asked me out again, and I never really asked them out, other than asking if they wanted to go snowboarding. And I think I gave the impression that I don't want to meet with them one-on-one, and I kind of did give that impression because I was kind of nervous to do it. And then, it was just hard. So I screwed it up on the date, and I screwed it up, I don't know, because they did actually, like, leave, too. Like, not, like, right away, but, like, they left. And, I don't know. I botched that one, like, so bad. Like, so bad. And I had been crushing on this person for, like, probably, like, a year. But they were married, and then, like, they were no longer married at this time. And I didn't even know that. I thought we were just hanging out, just to, like, hang out. And then they kind of revealed to me that they were no longer with that person, and that they're single, and that they're dating. And I'm just like, oh, like, I thought we were just meeting as, like, buddies, someone that I was kind of crushing on as, like, a buddy. And then that did not. I think it just caught me off guard, and I did not know how to function. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm like when I'm, like, into somebody, and I think they're, like, very attractive. I'm, like, completely not able to function. And then if it's somebody that it's more, like, on an intellectual level, or like a spiritual, emotional, like, all these other things, but it's not necessarily, like, their looks that caught my attention. But I'm not saying that, like ugly people or whatever. Like, I really don't think I've seen that many people that I think are ugly. I mean, I think almost anybody cleans up pretty nicely. I don't know. Maybe it's just how I see things. I don't really see people as, like, that ugly, but I mean, yeah, like, I would say that, I've had people where I've been, like, patterns that I notice is, like, okay, I'm, like, interested in this person. I find them very attractive. I find them very interesting. Like, and it's not necessarily because of how they look necessarily. Like, I would say they're attractive, but they're not, like, maybe they're not completely my type physically, or or maybe they're just, like, they look good, they're attractive. Everyone would probably label them as attractive, but I'm just maybe they're not, like, physically my type. But I mean, they're not, like, I don't think, for me, I really don't look too much at the physical. I mean, I do somewhat, I do like, a certain body type. Not necessarily thin. I mean, I like a little meat, but I would say, fit, or, athletic, or at least somewhat active. Someone who's not, like, moaning and groaning, like, when they're just trying to, like, stand or sit, like, someone who takes care of their bodies and, like, takes care of themselves and eats properly most of the time. That I find attractive, because, it's going to translate into other areas of their lives. But, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I would say, I noticed that it's hard for me to kind of genuinely want to, like, to kind of, like, it's kind of like I kind of want two things at the same time. Like, I want to have a deeper, closer, more authentic relationship with a person. With most people, that's kind of how I feel. And then there's that kind of ambivalence of, like, what I need to ask, or what I need to say, or what I need to kind of, express for that person to know that that's what I want, versus, like, let's just go get drunk, buddy, and, like, play some pool or something, where it's like you can't really get to know somebody too intimately like that. And I mean, yeah, it's good to go out and have fun and stuff, but it's like there's a certain level of activities that you need to do that involve like quiet places and sitting and actually speaking to one another. That is going to be getting a person further in like an intimate connection. And talking about things that actually are deeper than like the weather and, what kind of groceries I ate for dinner. Just trying to be connected about deeper things. And so once you go from there, like general, and you kind of break down if there are different categories of the general, then you can look at a specific example that kind of meets that. And so the example that I had is one that, is a person that I like. I don't want to say I don't find them physically attractive, because I do. They're a cute person, but I wouldn't say that they're necessarily my physical type 110%. But, even having a friend that was like, yeah, like they're kind of cute. And I'm like, yeah, they kind of are attractive. I kind of like the way they look. That kind of, is nice. And then, but I notice I do often look at the negative things where I'm just like, there's this about that person, that about that person, which is fine, I think. And there's a lot that we do have in common that I love that's pretty awesome. We've had a pretty long-term connection. I'm not going to talk about hardly any details about this person, but I was having this therapy session, and kind of about like stress around this dating process, where it's like early phases of dating, and it's like I was saying that like I realized something in the process of the most recent kind of date I went on with this person, that I don't usually seem to have very romantic feelings for most people. And it's like I was explaining, like, I'm kind of trying to paraphrase it, but also kind of just reading it at the same time. Like I said that it's like I think of them and I consider them and I want to be with them, like in, like near where they are, and like hang out in person and talk when we're not together. Maybe not like all the time, 24 hours a day, but I mean like interact when we're not together and check in and know how they're doing, and, hear about their well-being and their life and their opinions and things. Like I do feel like the person matters to me, but I don't really tend to feel like very romantic or like, like I want to make sure they're okay and I like to check in, but I don't tend to feel all those like touchy-feely, like gushy kind of emotions. But I mean, honestly, if this person was like dating somebody else, I'd be pretty jealous, or I'd be like, I would rather, I do want to be with them at least to some extent, or else I wouldn't be concerned about, if they're dating somebody, or, if they find me attractive and things like that. Like, I want them to like me, and they seem like they do. I've never really, well, I know that they do like me. I just don't know to what extent. And I know that I like them, and I don't know if I really know to what extent. More than a friend, but not so much that I'm like gonna bring them home to my parents necessarily. I said also that, I noticed that I get nervous and anxious and even paranoid to a certain extent. Like if the person makes like certain facial expressions when I'm saying something, or like if their affect is pretty flat when I'm saying something, then I'm like, like I'm saying the wrong thing, or they're, they don't like this topic or something. Or, if I'm in a group with this person and it's like I notice they're interacting with, like I'm super sensitively like high tuned, to like the interaction, like the facial expressions and kind of like mannerisms of a person. And, I tend to really just interpret them to be like, oh, I'm screwing this up, and I haven't really screwed up so much stuff on dates and stuff that it's like that would be like normal. But this person's we've been talking for like such a long time. Like, if they really didn't like me and they're so straightforward, I think that they would be like, I don't really want to talk to you anymore. But I have had that happen where I thought things were going good. And then, with a different person where I thought things were going good and I was kind of reacting almost the same way as I am with this person. But this other person was like I hadn't known them as long at all. Never met them before either. But I thought we were kind of connecting. And it was mostly online because it was like right in the middle of COVID. Nobody was meeting. We lived like 100 miles away. But I was like, well, whatever. And I was trying to like help them a little bit, be supportive of them, be compassionate towards them. And they just took what they wanted and they were just like, oh, thanks, you gave me a cool resource. I'm going to go over here and do that now and don't talk to me anymore. It's kind of like, okay, like, wow. And I maybe they took me asking them how their day was as me like checking in. Cause I do notice that right before that, they kind of told me quite a few times, like, you don't really have to check in on me or you don't have to worry about me. But I wasn't like worrying. I was like, okay, I'm not worrying, but I just kind of want to still talk and like see how you're doing, see how your day's going. But also they probably didn't like texting. It seemed like they were pretty vague. I was like, you got to be a little direct with me. If you don't want me to text you, just be like, I'm not in a good mood, or I don't read long texts, or I don't really text. And like, okay, cool, I get it. I don't really know, that. I mean, I would say, even though I didn't really know that person, it did hurt my feelings, and it kind of, did kind of rub me the wrong way to a point where I think it does impact me with other people. But I don't really see other people being like that, because this other person was pretty like emotionally shut down, and they kind of weren't really I don't know. They weren't really seeming like they wanted a genuine connection, and they also weren't, I think I've talked about this before, but they weren't like over one of their, I don't want to call it exes, but like they had a partner that was deceased. And so I started realizing, it was like near holiday times, and I started realizing, I'm like, they don't really want to talk, they don't want to hang out, they don't really do anything, they're just thinking about their ex all these holidays, and like, or their other partner all these holidays, and they're not over them, and all this kind of stuff. So I was just like, dude, like, they clearly just weren't over that other person. So it's like, why would I really want to be involved in that person's life, right? And we weren't even gonna meet, and it was just like, why are we even talking? Like, what are we doing here? So when I think about it out loud like that, it's like, we weren't really going anywhere, nothing was really happening. And so yeah, there's that. But that, kind of jogs my memory about like, like, I don't want to do something wrong that makes it so somebody's like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Because I have before, it seems like. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me just tone it down a little bit. But I mean, with the odds of things, it's like, if you think about how much I do socialize, because I'm told that I'm quite social, which I feel like I'm not. But I mean, enough people have said that I'm like, I should just listen to what they told me, because I guess maybe I am. But I'm so social. I meet people often. I mean, not during COVID, but like, I meet people often enough that it's like regular for me to meet multiple people that I don't know. Like, that is like common for me. So I'm comfortable with that. It's just so much, like, the deeper it goes, the less comfortable I might be. And some people I notice I can connect with easily. Especially like older women, not all of them, but there's some older women that I've been like, they're like in their 40s, and I'm like, dude, like, it's a little odd that they're old, but I mean, it, like, man, like, I got a lot out of it, like, in a connection sort of way. Like, I really enjoyed connecting with them. And I'm not sure if it's an age thing or maybe they just like don't care and they're just like, I don't care, I'm like 45, I'm just gonna say whatever I want. But I mean, they were kind to me and everything, but you know, we're not together, but yeah. But yeah, I was saying that, you know, I'm not great with, you know, initiating deeper intimate connections with people. Like, I know the people that I am kind of closest with, they have kind of pried out of me the things that I'm used to kind of just like keeping at a distance. They've kind of pried things out of me, like not in like an intrusive way, but you know, they've kind of made it okay. Yeah, these friends have kind of made it like okay for me to kind of, you know, be a little open and vulnerable and to talk about different things with them. And so there's a topic that if you guys haven't come across this, you might like it, but I really am going to mention them all the time just because I love their content. They're called Face the Facts, and you can find them on Instagram, and their YouTube channel is linked to their Instagram, but it's easier to get to their YouTube usually through their Instagram. And it's like for queer people, born females. I don't know if they all identify as like cisgender females, but you know, they're kind of on this non-binary spectrum. You know, they don't fit into the stereotypical female box. And they were talking about, you know, like for women who are kind of more masculine presenting or with masculine energy, they were talking about like when it comes to like even like sexuality and like being like physically intimate with their partners and things like that like sometimes they don't feel like comfortable, especially with like maybe like orgasming or even things like that. They're kind of like not comfortable with it. And that's like neither here nor there. Like that has nothing to do with what I'm saying with this topic, but it's just kind of like, you know, it just goes to show like there are a lot of dynamics when it comes to intimacy and, you know, vulnerability and those different sorts of topics. And I would say that when I was doing this therapy session, I found it very helpful that this person, you know, some of the questions they asked were, you know, have you talked to her about it? And then about how I feel. And then am I seeing this person like in a romantic way, more than I've ever seen in someone else that possibly makes me anxious? Like, is that what's making me anxious? Or do I feel uncomfortable, or feel more comfortable than I usually do? Like, what's my comfort level with this person compared to other people? And kind of looking at like this current situation compared to other situations with other people, and if I've addressed it with her. And the answer is no, I have not addressed it with her. I'm still kind of like testing out kind of what's okay to kind of address. I mean, she seems like easy to talk to, honestly, and I've seen her with other friends of mine, and so that kind of gave me a lot of insight into, you know, that she can joke, and like even though she says she's kind of like a homebody, she doesn't really mind like the club and bar environment that I love so much. Oh, and I really wish dance floors would come back soon. Please let it happen. But yeah, and then about like how I feel. So I think a lot of my ambivalence too is like how I feel. I may have talked about this on this podcast before, but I get pretty disconnected between like my thoughts, my emotions, physically how I feel about things. I can be like so disconnected, just like naturally. I'm just not too in tune with myself, like on all levels all the time. It takes a lot for me to kind of get in tune. And so I think that comes out too when I'm kind of like trying to date someone, or if I have a crush on someone. It's like I might not feel it because I'm like so like numb to, like, I almost purposely do this, but it's like I do tend to kind of numb myself out of things. Like, not like, I'm not like on some like hardcore like anything, other than like weed. I don't really care much for anything else. And I'm not trying to be like blitzed out of my mind either, like all the time. Like maybe on occasion I'll have like a night with a buddy or two where we just like really go hardcore, but that's not like a normal situation for my life. Yeah, there were times in my life where it was like, yeah, I want to just like be like binging on this, like, and drinking and all this stuff, like, but I'm not into that anymore. Like that was a temporary thing. And it served its purpose for that time, and now it's no longer something that I have an interest in. I like being productive and doing other things, and like I don't like the kind of aftermath of recovering from things and feeling all like sore and tired, and like that's not worth it to me, man. Like my energy's so precious. Like I don't want to waste a whole Sunday recovering from my Saturday night, it's like that's pointless to me. I don't knock it, but that's just not where I want my I don't want to be wasting full on free days of my week just from like a few hours of fun, but yeah, so have I talked to her about it? No, I haven't. I haven't because it's hard to talk about. And so, like I was saying, like I've it kind of helps me that I've seen her with other people, that I know she kind of has a fun kind of, excitable side, that she can be lighthearted and fun-loving, and kind of like, she's not like super prim and proper. I'm kind of more that way. I'm kind of more like, I don't want to mention, like, I don't want to flirt. I don't want to mention, like, but she's met some of my homies, some gay dudes that are like talking about like, oh, I like dick and that kind of thing, and then she's like laughing and like, and I'm just like, man, like, I never really joke with her like that, so it's kind of like I kind of see her like in a different way, or like, like if she's like dancing and stuff like that, and I'm just like, okay, like she kind of likes music and like club little environments where you can dance and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, at first I thought she was like super shy and super reserved, and now I'm noticing she's like not. And so, but she's not like way like not reserved, like she's not like so I don't know, like, but she's kind of, she's interesting to me. I'm still getting to know her, definitely, but I think I could do a better job. Like I don't really flirt at all. Like it's really hard for me to do. I don't think I have a gene where I can flirt. Like I just think that it's something that's missing in my brain. I don't know how to do it. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm more like, I will tell you what I think about you, and I'm very analytical and scientific and nerdy, and but I wouldn't say that she's not into me, because I think she is, but I haven't really talked to her about, I do kind of keep a distance, because I'm like, it's hard for me to kind of be pretty open with her about things, just because it's a level of vulnerability that I'm not sure if what's gonna happen, like if I open up that box, like I've never really, like, I'd say that I have confided in her things that I haven't really talked to other people about, but it's not like I do it all the time every day. But yeah, if I have like a bad night, or like, like flashback kind of things, going on and stuff like that, like or if I'm like highly anxious or just really irritable, or like, if I get like sad or something, I'll tell her, like I can tell her that, I feel like, and she's kind of like understanding with it. But I also know she's got her own shit going on, so I try not to be just like a drag and just be like, I had another bad day. But I mean, she knows I'm not having like the easiest time lately, so she seems like cool with it. She was telling, I don't know, no, I'm not gonna say what she said, but yeah, there are just some things, like it's hard for me to kind of want to connect to somebody. It's something I'm avoiding doing. So, yeah, but I feel it, that I kind of like force myself to be kind of more like numb and just like emotionless. And I think that's why she reacts to me the way she does sometimes, is probably because I am just completely like, what's up, like, and then so she is kind of like in tune with that, and like she's in tune with my energy. So if I'm trying to play the kind of like cool, calm, collected, just kind of like show no emotion, just blank, numb person, she kind of responds to me in that way. And I noticed she kind of mirrors a lot of what I do, like not like mimicking me or anything, but it's like I kind of notice, like, that she's kind of it kind of just depends, like how I am. And it's hard for me to be like emotionally open and be like it's hard for me to be emotionally open and at the same time being like trying to kind of like pursue this person. Like that is hard for me to do both. It's like I can be pretty emotionally open with trusted friends, and I can be emotionally open, or I can just like pursue somebody and then have like no connection to them whatsoever, and then be like, oh yeah, we're dating and like we're doing all this stuff, but it's like I'm really not like emotionally invested in this. It's hard for me to do both because it's a lot, if there's rejection experienced from that, then it's a lot harder than it would be if the rejection was just like, oh, like we just hang out and like do all this stuff and flirt or whatever, but it's like we're really not like too emotionally intimate with each other. Or the other way around, where it's like I can be completely like emotionally connected with like my friends and stuff and like confide in them about all sorts of things, but then it's like, we're not like sexually involved with each other really. We're not. We play around about stuff, but we're not like we're not like friends with benefits or anything like that. So I don't knock it. I'm just saying I don't have any friends that I'm like that with right now. So and that's fine for me. That is perfectly fine, because I don't think I need that right now for myself. I don't need that. I know I don't. It would be fun and nice, but I think it's a terrible idea for myself right now. Like, I'm not in a place where I need that. So I'm trying to stay away. And it's easy to stay away because of COVID. So it's like, just stay away. But yeah, you can probably even tell when I'm like talking about this stuff that I'm like not in my emotions about it at all. And I can tell that when I'm talking about it too, that I'm like not in my emotions about it either. And that's why it's hard for me to kind of talk like smoothly, and I'm kind of slowly talking and trying to choose the words that I'm saying, because there's a part of me that's just completely just like not even connected to any of it. I'm just like, nah, I'm not even there with you. I'm not even there on this. And that's hard for me because I don't think, naturally I don't want to be that way. But then also I notice it's because I'm, recording and other people are going to be listening to this. Like if I record my own podcast or just things that I know I'm not gonna post, I'm like very emotional in some of them, like I'll be like a bit teary in some of them and like crying and stuff, and it's like I'm not really going to do that in the ones that I post. Like, there are ones that I specifically put in the note, like, for the title, I'm like, do not post this. It's like, God forbid one day I'm just not paying attention and accidentally post it. But I mean, that's the reality of things for me, It's hard for me to, like, be it's hard for me to be trusting in general. Not even too trusting, but, like, to be trusting. And I am a very sensitive person. I connect very easily to people. But it's hard for me too, because of that, I think people like it. And then at the same time, like, I do come across quite a few people that are just, I've mentioned before, like, I've got a friend who's, like, pretty pervy and, like, intrusive, or, people who are, like, judgmental, or people who are just hard to deal with. So, yeah, but this is a long recording. I hope that this information is helpful for somebody out there. Again, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I don't really know what I'm doing, honestly, with some of these, but I just wanted to put out a good recording. Emotional ambivalence is really a true topic, and it is for real. But you can deal with it, and I hope that the examples I gave were good enough. I'm not perfect. I struggle with these things just like everybody else. And the things I mentioned might seem just like not even a big deal. Some people are probably really good at the stuff that I have so much trouble doing. So, but yeah, it's nice to be able to post something that might be relevant. I'm trying to keep it real. I'm not trying to be all like fake about stuff and act like, but I also don't want to be like super negative and be like, oh, like everything is a bummer in life and it's difficult. I mean, like, I'm having a fun time with this person I'm trying to get to know. I'm enjoying myself. It's fun. But, there is this kind of nagging in the back of my own mind of like, yeah, I kind of like things to be a little different, and there's this ambivalence with it. And so I think I'll get through it. I'm going to keep talking to this counseling person, and, I've got a pastor that I'm talking to on Thursday. I don't think I'm going to mention all this. Maybe. I'll see. I don't think so, though. But yeah, well, that's it for now. I'm going to go eat dinner because it's freezing, and it's 6:13 p.m. and I need to eat. And all right, thanks for listening. Bye.